Gearing up for a Wednesday Ravens lunch hour live stream here inside the vault. It is the 30th of October. I am Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. Today's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Homage, and you know what that means. It's Wednesday giveaway time, and if you want to enter to win a shirt like Sarah's rocking right now, you saw the Derrick Henry shirt from last week. Now, this is kind of fitting, Sarah, that the OGs that they could really use right now in the middle and the back end of this defense are being rocked right now on that front of your T-shirt. And so to be eligible for a free Homage T-shirt today, you can do the following. Subscribe to the Vault and like this video. Leave a super chat with the hashtag Vault, which is going to be how that is critical because one of the critiques, one of the feedback items that we had from our audience last week was that, hey, the giveaway has got to be not opinion-based. It's got to be randomized. So Sarah has done her research. We're going to be able to do exactly that at the end of this episode. So again, you can be eligible for a free Homage T-shirt like the one that Sarah is rocking right now by 1, subscribing to the Vault, liking the video, leaving a super chat with the hashtag Vault, and clicking on the link that we have included as a pinned comment right now in the live chat. With that, we have a lot to discuss. More on Homage in just a bit, Sarah. But yesterday had some breaking news about an hour or two after we finished up I think we went 80 minutes, somewhere around there on Tuesday. Deontae Johnson is a Raven, and a week out, now we're 6 days out, but at the time, a week out from the deadline, Eric DeCosta and company made their first, hopefully their first move by acquiring Panthers wide receiver and former Pittsburgh Steeler Deontae Johnson. We're going to get into the specifics of how they pulled off a pretty decently low risk, maybe medium to high level reward kind of move, and a number of other things. So good to see you, partner. Let's get into it.
Good to see you. I mean, we were all anticipating a trade. Some were asking for a receiver. Wasn't against that, but if they only had one chamber, as they say, one bullet in the chamber, as they say, then you would want it to be on the defensive side. But they went ahead and they got a wide receiver to add to this crew, Bobby.
They certainly did. Let's get into the specifics as to how we got here and how the Ravens, again, a week out from, they still have time, and hopefully they're not done. But here are the specifics of the deal. Adam Schefter and others on the National Insider scale were on top of this just after 2 o'clock on Tuesday, Eastern time. And Carolina is sending wide receiver Deontae Johnson to the Ravens. In terms of the compensation, it's a pick flop. The Panthers are getting a 5th-round pick for Deontae Johnson. So for the Ravens' perspective, Sarah, this is there's just really not a whole lot of risk here, and it's very, very team-friendly, as Jeff Zaribek noted. The Panthers are going to pay down some of his salary.
A lot of his salary.
I was going to say some is probably not the perfect word for it. A lot of his salary. They're going to owe him, the Ravens will, $625,000 for the rest of this year. And as Jeff notes, there's other potential voids that he could fill aside from just wide receiver depth. Also, he's got some return experience, and that is an area, particularly when it comes to the punt return game, that the Ravens have not gotten a lot out of so far, and they just placed Deonte Harty on injured reserve, Sarah. So there are other levels to this. Your instant reaction to Deonte coming to Baltimore was what?
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, my instant reaction was that the Ravens are getting, at worst, a new number 3 wide receiver, maybe more if injuries were to happen. So at worst, you got a new number 3 wide receiver, a guy that can beat cover 1 and man coverage on the perimeter. And as you said, he can help be a returner. And on top of all of that, he's basically free. So you get all of those things, at worst, a number 3 wide receiver, a help at returner. And you get it for free. And because he's basically free, and we'll get into more of those details, because he's basically free, right now the Ravens are in the just about the exact same spot as they were yesterday at this time in terms of their ability to go and make a second move on the defensive side. So this trade right here does nothing, does not prevent them one iota from going out and still getting defensive help. So to me, the two questions after that was, shoot, why would you not do it? And number two, why did the Carolina Panthers do it for so cheap? Those were really my questions coming out of it.
For sure. And just before we came on minutes ago, Josina Anderson wrote a very, very long tweet that I think answers a number of questions that I've seen from fans. So I'm just going to go ahead and rip through this real quick, and then we'll continue to dive into the specifics behind this move, what we think of it, some concerns that are out there on the national level. And here is Josina. She's told that Deontae Johnson's trade acquisition does not reflect a change in the team's view of Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman as their wide receiver 1 and 2. While I'm told Johnson was brought to Baltimore for his speed, separation, and punt returning abilities, especially given what I just mentioned, the Deontae Hardy on IR, it's been reinforced to Flowers and Bateman, even going back to last year when the team added additional weapons at wideout, that the organization not only believes in the aforementioned duo, but also has very high confidence in them. So I was told, quote, they are not messing with that. Even with Johnson's obvious route running skills, I'm told the organization is keenly aware that both Flowers and Bateman are currently top 20 producing wide receivers in the league. Flowers ranks 11th. Bateman is 20th in terms of receiving yards. And also, she goes on to note of the 2-year contract extension that he received in the offseason. This is Josina Anderson on the latest about Deontae Johnson if you're just popping onto the live stream. She's told there's potential that Nelson Aguilar's reps might feel the impact more than anyone else, but a vibe change is not expected to result from any displacement, as she's hearing the current plan is for Nelly to actually open up his doors and host Deontae at his house in Baltimore with his most recent team. Nelly has 11 receptions for 170 yards so far on 22 targets on the season. As for whether, and this is a long tweet here from Josina with a ton of context.
Yeah.
As for whether there's any concern of Johnson's history with the Pittsburgh Steelers and some reported instances of upheaval carrying over, including a heated locker room argument with Minkah Fitzpatrick after the safety took issue with Johnson's treatment of the coaches on the sideline and seemingly walking away from the opportunity to recover Jalen Warren's fumble in a game against the Bengals last season, she's told that Johnson will have an opportunity to mold his own future in Baltimore. The feeling is that, quote, people can grow up and mature and have their eyes opened when in a new environment of hope and optimism. Still, I'm told it'll be, quote, up to him to make the most of this chance. She goes on to note other items that we've already covered, like what the Ravens are going to pay, which is peanuts when it comes to NFL front offices. Very long, off script, because that just came out right before we came on, Sarah, but lots of key information in there. And how about the veteran? How about the team guy that Nelly is for opening up the door to get him acclimated?
Bobby, it falls right in line with why I said he's at worst your new number 3. I didn't say he was your new number 1. I didn't say he was your new number 2. I said he's your new number 3. Yep. And we'll get into specifics about how he can work with Zay and Bateman. But she's absolutely right. Like, it'll be Nelson who will mostly feel the impact, and yet he's the one opening the doors. There for sure has been questions about, like, it's always the dreaded, like, character questions. And I was reading some tweets from former Steelers fans and former Steelers bloggers and reporters. And obviously, just a real quick thing. I've seen a lot of people put in super chats that are not finished with #vault. Just a reminder, super chat and with #vault if you want to be entered into the giveaway. You guys asked for us to do it randomized. The way we do it randomized is it goes out to the super chats that have #vault. I've seen like 3 or 4 come in. I don't want you to not be entered to win the giveaway. Anytime you're writing a super chat today, please finish with #vault, or else the software cannot include you in the giveaway. Just a quick side note there. I don't know if you can go back and edit those and maybe add in #vault. But the software does it based off of hashtags. Okay, back to what I was saying. So good on Nelly for opening his doors and letting him in. Oh, I was talking about Steelers. That one of the main reasons why he was traded was because he wasn't getting along with people. Reports and rumors of fights, maybe even fist fights, stuff like that. And so, Bobby, we've seen this before. We've seen people with the quote unquote character issues. OBJ was one of them, right? That everybody was like, is this the type of guy you want here? The Ravens have had many where somebody comes in and they've had past character issues, but they've shown growth and improvement and change. Then you've had people come in here with no past quote unquote character issues. And then all of a sudden it's like, what the heck? Earl Thomas is a guy that, like, nobody was talking about that. And then It just seemed to be he was arguing with everybody.
Well,
So
he did flip off the sideline though, one of his final moments with Seattle. But yes,
yeah, that's true. And but it wasn't like this prolonged, rumors that you had heard about. So,
yeah.
I'll say the same thing with him that I said about OBJ. We won't. This is the part that we can't analyze. I can analyze the film, we can analyze the stats, we can analyze how people work X's and O's, but that part of it, whether he's changed, that's something that the Ravens have to do their research on, and they've obviously decided that he's worthy of giving this opportunity to.
If you're not familiar with Diontae, as we've both referenced, he is a former Steeler. He's a third-round pick from 2019, 66th overall. He played his college football at Toledo. He's just 28. He'll turn 29 next summer. He's not a big body. I know some of you have been clamoring for that type of player. I know I was certainly in the offseason process, and whether it was Keon Coleman or anybody else that was out there. He's 5'10", 183 pounds. He was a second-team All-Pro in 2019, a Pro Bowler in 2021. He has had one 1,000-plus yard season throughout his career. And as Jonas looked at here, Sarah, for the first 8 weeks in Carolina, obviously not a great situation to be in for anyone, being that they're not at a point where they're competing, at least for postseason play whatsoever. New head coach, lots of turnover. They're clearly sellers. Diontae with Bryce Young versus Diontae with Andy Dalton, some pretty night and day numbers. And you would think that should continue when you bring him into the MV3 system that Lamar Jackson's playing. And I don't know why there's been so much pushback to this. We've already covered a couple aspects here related to why this makes so much sense. There's not a lot of risk involved whatsoever from a team standpoint. We've all talked about, knock on wood, the Ravens being one injury away from being thinner than thin at wide receiver. And so here you get a guy who understands AFC North football. You've already talked about some of his abilities, whether it's beating man coverage, his ability to separate, his understanding of AFC North football. He's a Florida guy. I don't know if you noticed that from the other slide, guys, that his middle name is
go
LaMarcus.
Back to that? I was going to say, can you go back to that other slide?
His middle name is LaMarcus. Come on, man.
You can't make this stuff up. Deontae LaMarcus Johnson. Can you go up to slide 3 for me also?
Sure.
So I think, Bobby, my view of people's pushback is just that he's not a defender. I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's like, he's not a defender. The defense is clearly what's holding this team back. The defense is not even close to being Super Bowl championship worthy. I don't even know that they're like playoff worthy. They weren't even Browns worthy against Jameis Winston last week. They're just not up to snuff, not even close. Now, again, they did have injuries last week also, but even prior to that, they've been struggling. So to me, the question is less why the Ravens got him for essentially free and more why the Carolina Panthers let him go. And it plays into what you're talking about with those stats that he was better with Andy Dalton than Bryce Young. So the reason why they seem to let him go, from what I'm reading, is that he wanted out. So originally he was saying, yeah, I'm cool here. I want to re-sign after the season. And then it became known that he became very unhappy and discouraged from losing. And one of the reasons why he was even being brought in was to help develop Bryce Young. Well, they've moved on from him essentially. Like it's just like it's not even happening. So look at how angry the Carolina Panthers fans are. I brought in a tweet here. One of the fans says, imagine trading for a wide receiver, designing a whole offense to showcase him as the feature guy, to now trading him away for basically a used pack of gum. The Carolina Panthers are the dumbest in the NFL by far. And then can you go to the next slide?
Yeah, they've made some questionable decisions. And by the way, Sarah, too, keep in mind that the last few quarterbacks that he's played with, not just over the last couple months in Carolina, being Andy Dalton and Bryce Young, but last year was Kenny Pickett. So as much as we can dive in and sink our teeth into the numbers over the last couple of years, I think that, hey, a rejuvenated Deontae Johnson has the chance of really kind of turning a page in Baltimore and now being with a relevant team. He's went from irrelevance to relevance.
And then this from Cat Crave, which is, kind of on like a Russell Street Report or a, one of those kind of blogs
publications down in Carolina.
Yeah, in Carolina. So it says Johnson's representatives no doubt informed the Panthers that their client would not be signing a new deal once his contract expired. The franchise tag is too costly for a team with minimal financial wiggle room in 2025. Morgan, which is their GM, sent the former third-round pick out of Toledo to the Baltimore Ravens to get something back in return. It always seemed likely that Johnson would be moved before the trade deadline. He wants to win, which is something the Panthers cannot seem to accomplish. He was brought in to help Bryce Young, who was benched after 2 games as Dave Canales went into self-preservation mode. This is enough to leave everyone disenchanted. The pass catcher is going from a toxic situation to an extremely profitable one. He's going from Young and Andy Dalton to Lamar Jackson, a 2-time NFL MVP who also has the benefit of running back Derrick Henry alongside him this season. Talk about a shift in environments. It sounds to me coming out of Carolina that Deontae Johnson was pushing for this move and is partly why they were like, all right, well, let's get something. But the something was basically only moving up, 15 or so spots.
Right.
So, and the Ravens, by the way, this is why I also say it's essentially free. Because $625,000 is it's not even veteran minimum. We're getting close to practice squad money here.
Right.
And on top of it, if the Ravens don't re-sign him, which I would doubt they do, if the Ravens don't re-sign him, they're going to get potentially a comp pick when he leaves in free agency.
For 2026.
Which I'm sure is going to be worth more than 15 or around 15 or to 20 spots that you're moving back. So that's why I'm saying it's an essentially free deal.
Right. And then you went ahead and cross-compared just what Diontae's done so far in Carolina through 7 games compared to what Zay has done through 8 games in Baltimore. Zay's got 41 catches for 527 yards and a touchdown, separation percentage of 68.42, and a 4.7% drop rate. For Diontae, in 1 less game and obviously a brutal situation, 30 catches, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, a separation percentage of 65.31, and a 6.3% drop rate. And you also have, I believe that's a separation chart on the right-hand side, correct?
Yeah, so this is where I think, where we want to talk about what he can do for the Ravens. And again, I'm not trying to make this out to be like he's new wide receiver 1 or 2. I think number 3 is the right way to go. But here's what Deontae Johnson can do for you. Okay, number 1, he can help threaten the perimeter. Okay, the Ravens outside the numbers have the 3rd fewest catches outside the numbers so far this season, with just 29 catches. Deontae Johnson, since 2019, he has the 6th most catches outside the numbers. Okay, and that's particularly important, Bobby, because the Ravens, the most looks they get from opposing defenders is cover 1. They got 1 safety high. So what you need is a bunch of guys who can separate on their own one-on-one. And now you've got 3 of the best. 3 of the best when it comes to separation. Rashad Bateman, by the way, is number 2 in the league. He's at 75%, whereas Diontae is at 65, and Zay is 68. And yet Deontae's known as being a separator, and yet Rashad Bateman's way higher. So he can separate on these one-on-ones, but he can separate and threaten the perimeter. So Bobby, why is this important? So the Ravens get the 8th most cover 1 defense in the league, the 8th most. And so what corners will do is they're going to try to use inside leverage and force their wide receivers to the perimeter. And then that way, the other 8 guys on defense can focus on Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Justice Hill, and that running game. So you need to be able to threaten the perimeter. And so by doing that, one way you can also get people to get out of that cover 1 and loosen up the box a little bit, and we have to be careful with this, you can get into 13 personnel now rather than just 11. And I don't want to leave 11 too much. I love our 2 tight end sets for sure. But when you have 2 tight ends in there, you're telling the defense, go ahead and bring in bigger guys. And when you bring in bigger guys, these bigger guys can tackle somebody, have a better chance of tackling Derrick Henry than, say, a corner. So if you go into 13 personnel and still leave Derrick Henry in there, well, now all of a sudden you've created less congestion in there for Derrick Henry. And so that's why, again, I don't see him taking away too much snaps from Zay and Bateman, but you can occasionally get into 13 personnel, try to open things up for Derrick Henry, attack those perimeters. So now you're even more versatile as for Todd Monken, has more things to play with than he did yesterday by having a guy who can do all this. And one other thing that Deontae Johnson can do in terms of 13 personnel, Bobby, is listen. We have criticized Todd Monken for forgetting about the run game and Derrick Henry, and I stand by that still, especially quarters 1 through 3. However, if the Ravens find themselves in a shootout in the fourth quarter, you do need to get into 13 personnel. You need plenty of guys that can get open on the perimeter so they can, catch the ball, get out of bounds. And a lot of times it's like the tight ends over the middle or a slant to Bateman over the middle. And so if you do end up, because your defense can't stop the opposing team, if in the fourth quarter you truly do need to go to 13 personnel, again, enters Deontae Johnson, who can help you out in those situations and then try to win a shootout when you're forced into it by your defense.
We'll get to some of the national perspective on some of their concerns, including Jeff Saturday in just a bit. Food for thought here. Sheena Quick, who is a Panthers beat reporter down in Carolina, just tweeted out within the last 20 minutes or so, according to her league source, there were initially 2 teams in talks with the Panthers to trade for Deontae Johnson. Baltimore came in third of those 2 teams in terms of chronologically, and then last with what ended up being the best offer the Panthers could get for him. So that does tell you what the league,
for free.
That does tell you what the league thinks of Deontae Johnson. So again, for those of you who think that we're glazing all over this and we're all, we're fired up about it, we're giving you both sides here, and we're about to share, obviously.
Well, not glazing. I'm giving the X's and O's of it. Never once did we say wide receiver 1 or 2. This is completely the X's and O's of it. And by the way, I need to correct myself. I kept saying 13 personnel because I was thinking 13 wide receivers. Obviously, it's 11 personnel, which is 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
You're good. Let's do this. Let's rip through some super chats. Let's get our homage read in here and remind everybody of our giveaway today, and then continue the conversation with Deontae Johnson. Robbie Pate weighing in with a hashtag vault, meaning you are now eligible, Robbie, for today's giveaway, which will be randomly decided within the next half an hour. Tank wants in as well. Gabe says first to super chat that the shirt is fire, hashtag vault. Evan and New Beginning and Jeremiah all weighing in as well. Jeremiah says maybe another trade with the Panthers. How about Jadeveon Clowney? Could potentially be wanting out of there given his veteran status and had a career year with Baltimore last season. Tiffany says Jameis Winston is the AFC Player of the Week. Put it on the defense's bulletin board. In Sarah's words, woof. I used that the other day, by the way. Isaiah said, love the show. I want Jadeveon Clowney. We need that pride and intimidation again. Juicebox enters into the giveaway with a hashtag vault. Sam says, did anyone else notice we didn't hear the fire Harbaugh chatter during that 5-game win streak? We'll get right versus the Broncos. Hashtag vault. Monica weighing in as well, along with Brimey. We said yesterday we're going to go back and forth, and here I am ripping through this. I'm sorry.
You're good.
You want this one?
Sure. The Ravens are back in their comfort zone. Plenty of talking heads in the media are going to pick the Steelers to win the division. But hey, we like it. I think Week 16 decides the AFC North. Hashtag vault.
And let's see. Flores. I'm going to go with Flores just so I don't botch it. I'm going to go with Flores. I hate cowering.
Just go with Flores.
Okay, Flores. Now let's get better on defense. Hashtag vault. Still 6 days to do so. Jeremiah says, please give us more pass rush and secondary. Hashtag vault. The Diesel Doctor, who was last week's giveaway winner, says, I would love to see Clowney back, but what about a splash move for a 1-year rental on a guy like Lattimore or the Honey Badger? Maybe not them, but I'm saying guys like them. Hashtag vault. TY says, I think EDC should call about Azeez Ojulari from New York and try to find some safety or DB help. Hashtag vault. Bosef says, keep making moves, DeCosta. Hashtag vault. Habitual line stepper says, allegedly he punched Kenny Pickett in the face. I don't see him in getting into it with Lamar. I don't see him as 1 or 2. He don't block. Hashtag vault. More donations here from New Beginning Kennel and Loft and Monica. And Mark Anthony says, I love the move. It's free. A great fit. And we still have the same ammo to get a defender or two. Feel like this is just the beginning. In EDC, we trust. #Vault. Jay Griffin says, need defense. Could have 11 all pros on offense. It won't matter. Rave Kingdom says, oh, sorry, Sarah. I'm so time driven.
It's
I'm
all
so
good.
time driven. I keep skipping over you. I'm sorry.
I don't need to do it. You're in a groove. I only come in when you're struggling. Why don't you just keep going until you struggle?
All right. Deontae's technically 2. Bateman may start, but statistically, Diontae has 2 1,000-yard seasons. That's not true. There's only 1. Bateman is yet to have 1. Personal Diontae should be R2. That's from Rave Kingdom.
I'll just say this, and you forgot to put #Vault Rave. I'm trying to help you out here.
A few other people have as well.
Yeah, you guys got to remember to do it. But here, I think that he's number 3. But here's the thing, Bobby. What did I say from the moment the Ravens extended Rashad Bateman? What have I been pounding? I've been pounding the drum.
You want competition.
I wanted competition for Bateman. And I wanted depth for Bateman and Zay Flowers. This does that. Bateman, he's been having, a breakout year for him, right? Maybe not for, what we're seeing from Jaden Daniels, for example, on that level. But he's certainly having a breakout year. But now, yes, he has competition because Deontae Johnson could be a number 2.
Sure. No way, DJ says #Vault. Sarah is 5,000% correct. Always. D-Rod entering into the giveaway. Diesel Doctor throwing in more orange donations or yellow donations saying, I want to see a newbie win. Take me out of the running, please. I'm just here to support the show.
Nice.
That's first class. Chef Trez says, I like the Deontae Johnson signings, especially for wide receiver 3, but I also liked Eddie Jackson earlier this year. I'm going to hold my peace. Marcus says, we honestly have a big body wide receiver and likely. Now on to the defense. #Homage. #The Vault. #Bobby Beast Mode. #Super Sarah Wolfen. Jay Rayner says, is Max Crosby even a possibility?
No.
Jay Griffin says, forgot to put Vault, so here's another $2. #Vault. Rico from BMO says, so many times people downplay the player that comes to Baltimore and they come here and ball out. JDC and D-Hen are examples. Not a fan says the real blockbuster trade is yet to happen. We got Johnson for so cheap. A splash at edge is coming. Trust in EDC. #Vault. Rave says, agree. This might light a fire under Bateman. #Vault and dreams for our 35th super chat, meaning all 35 of you, at least those of you who use the #Vault are now entered into today's giveaway. And Dreams says the depth move was solid. Now EDC needs to let his pride go and throw in some first round picks and get a legitimate game wrecker at pass rush. Wow. Okay. You guys are rolling in droves today. We appreciate you being here, and we very much appreciate Homage for sponsoring this episode. Remember, Homage is a brand new to our channel brand sponsor. They are a sweet apparel company, and it's not just for Ravens gear. They have official licensings across the NFL, the NBA, the WNBA, Major League Baseball, which of course is smack dab in the biggest part of their season right now, being that the Yankees extended the series and avoided a sweep last night in the Bronx. I don't know what that fan was thinking, by the way, with Mookie Betts trying to, alter his concentration on that foul ball in right field. That was absurd. But the MLS they have licensing with, and tons of other pop culture properties as well. What you're seeing on the screen right now is their brand new Ravens designed Charm City shirt. It's literally called Charm City. So consider checking that out when you go to the link that's included in the show notes below. Also, being that tomorrow is Halloween, Sarah, there's a monster sale all day long, which is 20% off site-wide. Some exclusions do apply, but there's just so many different options. You're rocking your t-shirt right now. I've got a bunch on the way that I'm excited about. Homage kind of gives you that retro old school feel, but then a shirt like this just gives you that new school feel as well. And I know you're loving your Ed and Ray one as well.
Got it. You got it, man. Lots of different. It doesn't have to be the one I'm wearing today, although you could go back and get Ray and Ed. You could go get the Angry Runs from Derrick Henry that I wore last week. I got several more. We're doing this. This is the second of 8 times we're doing this. So many different t-shirts. There's also sweatshirts, other things you could go buy. But in terms of if you win the giveaway, there's so many t-shirts to choose from.
And just to keep in mind, one more update here, one more reminder that at the end of the show, we will be randomly choosing a giveaway winner. And so as you see, as the pinned comment shows and reads in the live chat, to be eligible for a free Homage t-shirt today, all you have to do is subscribe to the Vault, like the video, leave a super chat with hashtag Vault, not the Vault, hashtag Vault. And you can explore Ravens gear and everything else they have provided for you available at Homage via the link. It's homage.com/Sarah and Bobby. Click on the link that's in the live chat. That is all you have to do. With that, let's get back to the content.
Yeah, so maybe we can transition over to kind of like some reaction from national outlets. Can you start? We'll just start with the slide. Can you go to slide number 10? So this was put up by NFL on ESPN Twitter account. And they put up, the updated Ravens offense and the guys that they have there. You got that coming in? There it is.
Just to be fully transparent with everybody, StreamYard is having a slight malfunction on the back end. So anyway, we're working through it.
Right. So thank you for working through it for us, Bobby, because I can't control it with the way it's working right now. So anyway, ESPN and NFL put up, the new Baltimore Ravens photos. They're like, take a look at this offense. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. And then they took out Rashad Bateman and put in Deontae Johnson. So to show love to Bateman on this slide, Bobby, I put in his photo outside of their tweet. You can see I added Rashad Bateman.
Right, yeah, but look what else he added.
I also added this because people are saying, and it is kind of funny. They're basically saying, okay, it was this moment where the ball is bouncing off his chest and face mask that they said, okay, let's go get Deontae Johnson. I don't think that's what it is all about. So I'm trying to show some love to Rashad Bateman. So there's one national reaction on the Twitter side, but I wanted to get into Mike Tice and Matt Harmon. Matt Harmon, they're both Yahoo Sports. They talked about what the trade means, getting into the X's and O's, kind of like I did, about what this means for the Ravens.
The Sun after that drop, the Sun. I thought
that started into the clip. Let me start it from the beginning.
Baltimore, they do need more receiving options because as much as I appreciate Rashad Bateman, I got to laugh about how he points up to the Sun after that drop, the Sun. I thought he still is. I think he's having a nice season. Zay Flowers is not this. He's a good separator, but he's like kind of a goofy route runner at times. Sometimes on these downfield outside.
Oh,
concepts.
You don't say quad. What it was the. It's not even quadruple. It might have been more than that. Quintuple move that he put on.
Zay Flowers out there running routes like it was Senior Bowl practice in a one-on-one drill, and so of course it's like, man, Lamar overthrew him on a pass. Wow, he didn't know where the hell he was going to be.
He runs routes in cursive, and everyone else is just block letters, all caps. He runs route.
So I just want to pause it there, Bobby, because initially I think I even tweeted that Lamar Jackson overthrew Zay Flowers. Some people were saying, well, Zay slipped. And then I said, well, it seemed like he recovered before Lamar threw it. But when I went back and saw the all 22, there's definitely no way that Lamar could have timed that up. Like, to their point, Zay Flowers on that pass, I mean, ran at least 3 different moves on it and did slip within it. And it's like, at some point, to get a wide receiver and quarterback on the same page, you got to know what route you're running. And unless like everything breaks down, then like, okay, you're going to go play street ball as the Ravens like to call it. But I just don't know how Lamar can get the timing down when Bateman's Zay's making like 3 or 4 different moves. He definitely got open, but at what point do you know he's going to be open when you're running all these different moves? So they were making that point, and I just wanted to call myself out because I also said that Lamar Jackson overthrew him, but that was a tough position to be in when your wide receiver's making that many moves.
We definitely both did.
Yeah. So anyway, continuing on with these guys.
Runs routes in cursive.
And Diontae's not a perfect player too. Obviously, you want to talk about drop issues. Like he'll have his drop issues every now and again too, but he is a reliable route runner who can separate against press man coverage on the outside. So definitely something that they didn't have in this room right now. So I mean, look, Baltimore's loading up as they should. They're a very good football team. Even if they lost this game against Cleveland, this is the type of move they should be making.
Yeah, absolutely. This would a team totally makes sense to go. Just like DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, like this just makes sense to me. Player fit, need, the looks that they get so much single high because everyone's scared of Derrick Henry in the run game. So, all right, let's get some man beaters. Let's just get some guys that can win one-on-one. And then when you have all those guys, you already have your dirty work guy in Aguilar. So you can get the other guys to do the flashy fun things. Deontae Johnson can do that. And when he doesn't have to be the guy, he can just be a secondary option. Yeah. Yes, it's kind of like they have a whole bunch of secondary options, but to me that works because they all can beat man. And they're not going to get any, too much of like, oh, we need this zone beater. They have some decent feel in there, but like, yeah, that's where the tight ends come in. That's where Isaiah Likely comes in, Mark Andrews. So yeah, just adding to their weapon pile in Baltimore. Good team.
Thoughts on that, Bobby?
I think it's kind of directly in line with what we've been discussing. That drop rate has haunted him at times in the past, but you hope that, again, working with Lamar, trying to get that timing down right out of the gate, I think we should temper expectations in terms of what his role will be right out of the gate. Josina says that he will be practicing this week. Not sure how much we should expect him to be an immediate factor. But again, a depth piece that I think immediately kind of gives insurance to that room that they desperately needed.
Yeah, and I like that Tice brought up the cover one and the 11 personnel and getting 3 wide receivers out there when you need it. I'm gonna do a clip in just a minute on like a warning that the guys at Get Up gave the Ravens about this move, and I really want to have that conversation before we do that, because now we're going to take a step back. We've really gotten into the weeds of what he can do for this team. So on Colin Cowherd, they had an immediate reaction, then had a big statement of what it means for the Ravens, and then we'll transition over to the warning that Get Up is giving the Ravens after they traded for Deontae Johnson. But here's Colin Cowherd and his reaction on his show as soon as it happened.
Deontae Johnson has just been traded to the Baltimore Ravens. The Carolina Panthers are sending Deontae Johnson to the Baltimore Ravens. So Kansas City goes out, gets an edge rusher, and D-Hop. Baltimore says, okay, we'll play that game. We'll go get a better receiver, Deontae Johnson. So the Carolina Panthers, the New England Patriots, they're moving off players at the trade deadline. Kansas City's adding them. Baltimore is adding them. What do you think, J-Mac? I mean, it's the rich get richer.
Buffalo, KC, Baltimore. That is a really awesome race in the AFC.
Okay, so one got D-Hop, one got Deontay Johnson, and one got Amari Cooper. Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City all added a B-plus level receiver.
Rank the teams for me right now, those three. They're clearly
Kansas City won. Buffalo, Baltimore's a coin flip. Baltimore's defense on the back end worries me.
So the Ravens had a great group of receivers last year, remember, with Odell Beckham and company. Yeah. They have now upgraded their skill position players with Derrick Henry. They got the young kid.
Zay Flowers.
Bateman actually showing okay despite the drop off the face mask this weekend. And now you're adding Deontay Johnson, who was a 1 or 2 in Pittsburgh last year.
You already got a Mark Andrews at tight end.
Mark Andrews likely the backup.
Yep.
They got the kid Mitchell, the young running back who's been on the PUP list all year. I got him stashed in fantasy.
Listen, they're saying we can't solve our defense. We'll make our offense better.
The Ravens have the best skill position players in the AFC. Who's got better?
No, you're right.
The depth-wise.
No, quarterback, running back, tight end, receivers, Baltimore's number 1, arguably in the league.
And Buffalo's second in the AFC to Baltimore.
Okay, 2 comments I want to get your reaction on. He said Deontay was a better trade than D-Hop. Thoughts?
Deontay was a better trade than D-Hop. I think Kansas City was more desperate for a wide receiver. They needed to make that move. And so out of necessity, I think that was more of a need. What was more savvy?
I could see D-Hop having more production in Kansas City than Deontay Johnson here, for sure.
For sure.
But what's crazy, because that comment stuck out to me, and I was like, well, let me go look at his look. Okay, so first I went to get his numbers, and I went to PFF because they have grades. So Deontay Johnson has higher numbers for sure. DeAndre Hopkins has 17 receptions for 202 yards and 1 touchdown. We had Deontay Johnson's up on the screen earlier, but I know he has 3 touchdowns. I think he was like in the 300-yard range.
So far this year, Deontae's numbers are 7 games, 30 receptions for 357 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's got more production for sure. Then I went over to PFF, and they're basically graded almost identical. Almost identical.
I just
I
can't
was
quite
like,
get over the
at
fact
first
that
I thought it was a crazy statement, and I still don't know that I completely buy it, but after looking at it, I was like, maybe it's not as crazy as I thought. Although I do think he's going to have a bigger impact in Kansas City because I think he'll have more opportunity for one.
for sure.
Yeah.
I can't get quite past J-Mac, Collins' co-host, putting Baltimore and Buffalo in the same category. Record-wise, sure. But after watching that head-to-head Sunday night, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
but I get
that
it.
was obviously before
Amari Cooper was brought
and,
in and before
Coleman
Buffalo's
is
kind of
flourishing.
the Bills have hit their stride. I
Yeah.
get that. But having watched, maybe we're a little bit biased with that, having watched
Right.
that Sunday night stomp down,
What about the statement of the Ravens have the best skill positions in the AFC on offense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't even think Deontae Johnson changes that. I think that could have been true before that.
Yeah.
I think Deontae Johnson, again, gives you depth and gives you flexibility in terms of 11 personnel, but I don't know that he necessarily makes it so now they do. It's like before you already had the MVP, the 2-time MVP. You already had Derrick Henry. You already had probably the best tight end group in the league. And then you have an above average wide receiver core. Are we good with that?
I don't know if I'm there yet.
Average?
Yeah. Going into the year, they were below average. So I'm happy to make them average right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in the live chat, or at least some in the live chat.
Yeah.
I would just caution you, for those of you who think that D-Hop is washed, we've seen this movie before. You have to throw out the statistics. You have to throw out what you've seen on tape in other situations. He is going to the Mecca of where wide receivers flourish. So I would just caution you guys that those of you who are writing D-Hop off because of what you've seen from him lately doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're going to get from him right now in Kansas City.
Okay, now on to the warning. So let's talk about this. Let's see what you think about this. This is they were talking about the move on Get Up this morning. A lot of people echoing what we're saying. Free trade basically gives you depth. They also said that they felt like the Ravens had the best offense in the AFC. But then Jeff Saturday and Mike Greenberg have a warning, and I want to see what you think about this.
What is our concern about the Ravens offense with the addition of Deontae Johnson?
Don't lose your identity. 3 wide receivers ain't your identity. Make sure you keep Ricard playing the 2 tight ends being in the game. If Johnson's coming in and you want to take Bateman out, great. Let's do that thing. What you don't want to fall into if you're the Baltimore Ravens is trying to get into track meets. The issue for the Ravens is when they played in the AFC Championship game, they dropped back 82% of the time. Their backs touched it 6 times. You brought Derrick Henry in for a certain style of football. Stay consistent to that identity.
But I don't think that 11 personnel necessarily messes up their identity. And you don't want to get in the trap of fighting yesterday's war. Like, them having this other receiver adds flexibility. Just because the reason why they lost last year was because they didn't stick to the run doesn't mean that when they come up with an opportunity this year that the best move isn't to spread it out, particularly with how well Lamar Jackson is playing. And also, if you put Derrick Henry in the backfield, you bring in another receiver, that brings in a DB, and that makes a linebacker leave. As a DB, you know what I don't want to see? I don't want to see Derrick Henry. You get all those tight ends in there, and you got big body guys against Derrick Henry. So
listen, I do love that. The problem is that don't fall in love with just the passing the game, because you and I know when 3 receivers get in and you start, all of y'all get the same way. This whole side of the table, bro, they all get excited. Oh, look at this matchup. Oh, look at this matchup. You see that 250-pound grown man in the back? That's the matchup I want. I want that matchup.
You're not wrong. This isn't a move that will change the identity of the Baltimore.
That's what I'm hoping.
This is a luxury because they're a good team who had the opportunity to, again, for cheap, solidify their floor for cheap. Because when you get in those 3rd and 8 moments, 2 tight ends ain't going to do it. You need man beaters. You need guys who can move the sticks. And those track meets aren't things you get into. They're things you're forced into because your defense seems to can't stop a nosebleed.
Okay, what do you think about the warning not to lose your identity just because you have the personnel to be on there with 3 wide receivers?
Well received. A lot of people still have PTSD from late January of earlier in the year. We all get that. But I think Hawk, the last guy who was speaking there, I get, is he a former NFL wide receiver?
Yep,
I think.
yep.
So he's speaking like he was. Hawk is, I think he's spot on. They're adding, the identity will not and cannot be lost, because we've seen what the ceiling can be, at least in the regular season over the last month plus, when you stick to your identity, when you stick to what you should have done more of in the AFC Championship game. This just adds, matter of fact, it adds to their identity. It doesn't take away from their identity. It just, hey, when push comes to shove in the postseason, Sarah, and while teams have not been able to successfully, at least consistently, stop Derrick Henry by stacking the box, right, through 4 quarters, and then in Cincinnati's case, into an overtime period, inevitably when a team is successfully able to do so, and if that happens in January, now you have another weapon where we can beat you outside. So you got to start to honor that as well. And if Diontae can do that consistently in man coverage, as he has done in the past, that's just another layer they can beat you.
Like, it's also well received on my part. It's funny because I think it's more than PTSD from the AFC Championship game. I think it was also the Kansas City game. I think it was the Browns game. And with the Browns game, again, 11 carries, and you weren't behind by more than 3 points until the 4th quarter. And so I think that Hawk is 1000% correct if Monken makes it 1000% correct. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, in an ideal world, if Monken is pushing all the right buttons, the Ravens are doing exactly what Hawk is saying, which is, listen, if you're forced into a shootout because of your defense, you now have the guys to be able to do that. But to Saturday's point, cool if you're forced in that position, but don't go into the game thinking from the start, I got to be that team. And that's where I think Monken could be tempted to go that route. Like if Monken comes out and we're like late first quarter, early second quarter, and we go out and throw 3 passes and 11 personnel, I'm not going to be a happy camper, right? Unless they're up like 14-0 already.
Yeah.
But like, so I think it could be an ideal scenario as long as Todd Monken is pushing all the right buttons and isn't tempted to abandon Derrick Henry and the running game prior to when he's forced into it by potentially the defense.
Let's make sure we get caught up to speed on super chats, just because we are coming up on that giveaway here shortly. So if we're at that point where if you guys want to enter into this giveaway, you only have a few more minutes to do so. Where did we leave off? Let's see. We've got 44 contestants. And Dream says, don't forget to like the video, #Vault. The Aries Explorer says, hey, Bobby and Sarah, love the show and the awesome content you guys bring. I feel like last week's game against the Browns was a wake-up call for us. I feel like we got this, #Vault. Wesley the Barber says, who's the bigger bust, Oweh or Bate, #Vault. Well, if it's what have you done for me lately, Bateman Shirley's in the driver's seat.
I would say bust to me is like you're not even playing by this time. Oweh got the 5th year. Oweh got the 5th year option, and Bate is on an extension, and they're both starting. So bust is not the right word. Who is succeeding less? I don't know. Bate is obviously having a better year.
We're 2 weeks out. We're 2 weeks removed from his career game. Obviously took a big step with 2 crucial drops on 3rd down last weekend in Cleveland. Jang says, what about Azeez Ojulari? Need help in the middle. A couple people have mentioned him from the New York Giants.
I got slides coming up on that.
Brandon Humble says, last time we had defensive issues in 2022, we traded for a certain linebacker from Chicago. Could we be needing a PQ replacement instead? Not a fan says, y'all think Hassan Reddick could be the move? #Vault. He just got himself settled with the Jets. I'm not sure he's on the move right now. Ravens for Life says, it seems as if EDC just said, F it. Our D is trash. Let's upgrade the best offense in the NFL and force everyone to score 37 plus to beat us.
Honestly, if he can't pull, I honestly believe Eric DeCosta is out there trying to make a defensive trade. But if he doesn't, this is absolutely the way to go.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. And it's an orange one as well. Good stuff, yes. Ravens for Life. If it was opinion-based, our giveaway, I might be going that way. No way, DJ says, look at what Juju has been able to do at Kansas City. And Not a Fan says, use this as the nobody cares what Jeff Saturday has to say button, #Vault. I like Jeff.
No, I care what he says. I think he's right. Like,
Jeff.
Just be aware that could be something that you fall into.
It didn't work out as the interim head coach there in Indianapolis.
No,
but
he did
I
not.
think he's a good dude. Rico from BMO says, and a heck of a player, by the way, heck of a Pro Bowl center. Rico from BMO says Micah Parsons. I'm not sure Dallas would be willing to give him up. They got enough issues right now going on there down in Cowboys land. Okay, we're tight for time. Where do we want to head next?
Let's go to okay, so since we said at the top of the show that we're in no worse position, the Ravens are in no worse a position to make a defensive trade than they were yesterday before this trade. Let's get into some defensive moves that could still be happening. Somebody had asked me yesterday on Twitter who I think are some realistic moves, okay? So not like, who would you love? Okay, I'm with everybody. I would love Crosby. I would love Micah Parsons. I would love all that. If you could bring up that slide, Bobby, that would be great.
Yeah, and why don't we do our final call-out action here for giveaways?
Sure.
Does that work?
Yep.
So in order to be eligible, and you see it as a pinned comment right now for a free Homage t-shirt like the one that Sarah's rocking today, if you could show that off while I say these final deliverables, subscribe to the Vault, like the video, leave a super chat with the hashtag Vault in your comment, and hit the link that's included as a pinned comment, which is homage.com/Sarah and Bobby. Those instructions right there, as simple as it gets, to enter you in for a Homage t-shirt for free, which is like what Sarah's rocking right now. Okay, let's get back to it. Let's clean up a couple things here. Oh, you already did because you're the best. All right, what slide?
Slide that has my tweet on there talking about, and it has the 3 pictures of defenders that we could trade.
All right.
There it is. All right. So somebody asked me yesterday who they could be. Listen, I don't know who's actually available. Nobody was talking about Ravens Deontae Johnson prior to when Adam Schefter broke the news. So who knows what EDC has cooking up. But some obvious phone calls to make from my point of view on realistic stuff, which is not Crosby. They already said they're not. The GM there, owner there said not happening. Crosby said, I want to stay here. Myles Garrett would be phenomenal. That's not happening. Michael, like all these are not happening. So realistic ones that actually could help a little bit. Bobby, something that was not true prior to the Browns game is the Ravens now need help at inside defensive line. I do not know what Michael Pierce's status is, but he's banged up.
And the indication, right, of signing Josh Tupou yesterday certainly suggests that he could be down for multi-weeks.
It could be a minute for sure. Urban was banged up. Travis Jones is banged up. It's a problem in there. And I think Calais Campbell is a great phone call. I will show you the money in just a minute. He could come as cheap as what Deontae Johnson was. Azeez Ojulari, which was named in our super chat, get to his numbers from the Giants. He's in the final year of his contract. Jadeveon Clowney, look, I guarantee that Eric DeCosta just has had a conversation with Panthers GM Morgan about Jadeveon Clowney because he just did a deal with that man for Deontay Johnson. I'm sure they've spoken about it. I'm sure they've spoken about Jadeveon. I don't know what the status is, but there's another guy. Atlanta has a couple excess safeties, so if you want to hit safety there. Lots of rumors about Zardarius Smith being open. I don't know if the Browns would do an in-division trade. But these 3 guys, I just want to take a look. Can you go to the next slide, Bobby?
Mm-hmm.
How's your nails over there? So this is Azeez and his numbers with the Giants so far this season. He's got 6 sacks. That would be number 2 on the Ravens team right now, behind Van Noy. So he's got some production. His best year was his rookie year where he had 8. Trailed off a little bit, but there's somebody who I think for sure, can you go to the next slide? The Ravens for sure could take his contract on. He's a $1.5 million base salary. There's only 8 weeks left, so this is going to be less than $1 million yet again. So there's an option there. Next slide, if you want to take a look at Jadeveon Clowney. Now, he'd be a little bit more expensive next year, but again, it'd be less than $1 million because his base salary is $1.2 million. All you have to do is play for 8 or so games. He'd be less than $1 million, but then you'd have that base salary for 2025, which I don't think the Ravens would like, at $8.5 million. So there's that. And then on to Calais Campbell, his money. Again, he would be less than $1 million. He's only at $1.2 million for base. Ravens would have to pay about half of that. So those are some realistic options that to me would make sense. But maybe EDC's cooking something else up about somebody that nobody even knows is available right now.
What about the Marlon Humphrey conversation that some are chatting about online related to a potential positional change?
Right. So if you want to go to the next slide on this one, if we had gotten a super chat about this, asking us if Marlon can move to safety, I think he's one. If the Ravens don't trade for a safety, I know people have been talking about Honey Badger from the Saints. The Saints is, from what I'm reading from reports down there, is they're not in a sell mode. They expect Carr to come back. They think they have a chance for the playoffs, so I don't think he'd be available. If you prefer to get an inside defensive lineman and or edge rusher, and safety continues to be a problem. I know Ken McCusick has been talking about from Film Study about moving Marlon over. Here's Jeff Zrebeck this morning. He was asked that. He said if he was talking about how Deontae Johnson doesn't limit you from making another move. He said, but if Humphrey and Wiggins are healthy this week and Mollett has another game under his belt, I'd consider using corner in occasional safety role. Obviously, Marlon is one. Brandon Stevens is another. Brandon Stevens has played safety. So there's an option of, listen, if Marcus Williams can't get it together, if Eddie Jackson can't get it together, if you're just not seeing any progress, that is a move to keep open Zach Orr and John Harbaugh.
And then the cross comparison, which is also what people have been pointing out as well when it comes to Denard Wilson, former secondary coach who took the Tennessee defensive coordinator job, up against Zach Orr.
Yeah, so this graph is from Russell Street Report, looking at the difference, and we kind of like briefly looked into this yesterday. But Denard Wilson, who was the Ravens' secondary coach, he's a veteran coach. He is now coaching the Tennessee Titans. Russell Street Report did a side-by-side comparison of their defenses right now. Rushing defense under Zach Orr, it's number 1. In Tennessee, it's number 12. Pass defense, though, we know the Ravens are 32. Under Denard Wilson, it's number 1. Like, you couldn't get more opposite, Bobby.
And that's his specialty.
And that's his specialty. And by the way, it's probably fair to point out that Mike McDonald had this man running his secondary last year, and he also had Weaver running his linebackers, his D-line. And then you already had Zach Orr at linebacker. So when you talk about an all-star cast, I don't want to take anything away from Mike McDonald, but my goodness, would Zachary Orr like be more successful right now if he had those same guys flip Mike McDonald for himself and then you still had those other guys? I think Zachary Orr and this Ravens defense would be better off. But holy cow, Denard Wilson has his pass defense at number 1. Overall defensive yards, Ravens are 25. Under Wilson, they're number 1 in Titans. I could just go on and on and on, Bobby. Clearly, the Tennessee Titans are in a better situation. Now, context is always helpful. If you want to go to the next slide, Ryan Mink was quick to point out on Twitter that this isn't a completely fair comparison because you have to look at the opponents. Tennessee has not faced the same quarterbacks as the Ravens. They've had to face Caleb in his first start, Malik Willis, Snoop, Tyler Huntley, and then Josh Allen, though, if you want to take a quarterback that's been against both, Josh Allen went for 323 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Titans, but went 180 for 0 touchdowns versus the Ravens. So people are out there, man, did the Ravens make the wrong choice? To be honest, maybe they did, because with all the coaches you just lost and the players that you lost, and Patrick Queen, Geno Stone, Jadeveon Clowney, it's an uphill battle for Zach Orr for sure. He does not have the infrastructure that the Ravens had last year. But knowing that, maybe it could be argued that Harbaugh should have chosen the more experienced and veteran coach, and Denard Wilson, knowing how much you were going to lose on the defensive side of things.
And Josh is on a run right now, which is maybe one of the reasons here why the MVP odds have gone in his favor. He is now the betting favorite. Jamie Eisner put this up on X. Plus 300 odds is Josh Allen. And Lamar's plus 350. Mahomes plus 475. Jared Goff plus 750, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so Lamar just dropping to number 2. That's fine. Listen, put your bets in when Lamar sinks low, because I think at the end there's still a great chance he's going to pull it off.
Jim Nantz, Tracy Wolfson, Tony Romo going to be on the call. The A team for CBS coming up at 1 o'clock on Sunday when the Denver Broncos come to town. And Jim Nantz joined Glenn Clark on his show this week. Legendary play-by-play broadcaster. I've seen a lot of players, Jim says. I don't want to sell them short. I did games with Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Emmitt Smith, a lot of great athletes. But in the modern era, what Lamar is doing, a chance to win a third MVP, it's spectacular to watch. It really is. Looking forward to that call, of course, coming up on Sunday. And then, man, if you are a non-established quarterback in this league, Sarah, and all of a sudden 39-year-old Joe Flacco comes into your building to back you up, it is a death sentence. And Anthony Richardson has found out what others have found out throughout the last several years. Joe Flacco is your new QB1 for the foreseeable future. Shane Steichen just clarified this morning, Sarah, that it's not just a temporary change. They are moving away from Anthony Richardson. You have to think some of this is related to what everybody's talking about right now with his decision that he made to check himself out of the game, and later referred to the reason why as because he was tired. But the play, the completion percentage, the recklessness, there's a lot in play here. And Indy's going with Joe Cool.
Joe just keeps finding ways. Joe just keeps finding ways to become a starting quarterback in the NFL. So good for him. Happy for him. Not rooting for him as he's in the AFC.
Oh, I know.
But also, I don't know, man. The NFL has to figure out how to develop quarterbacks. Not everybody's a Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? And all these teams, whether it's Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson or Wilson up in the Jets, like all these different guys, and you just throw them in, and then they're not making it halfway through the season, and then you bench him. Like, I understand why you're benching him. You want to win right now, and you think that Joe Flacco gives you a better chance. So then why not the Ravens? The Ravens kept Joe Flacco and then brought in Lamar Jackson when he was injured. They were going to slowly bring Lamar Jackson in. Like, put these quarterbacks in positions where they can succeed. And I think this is as much as a black mark on the Titans, or excuse me, on the Colts, as it is on Anthony. Like, you can just, like, I can already hear people probably calling Anthony a bust and this and that. And it's like, put these young quarterbacks, you like, look at them and evaluate them. And if they're not ready, don't put them in week 1. And if you're pulling them by week 8, that's on you. That's not on your rookie quarterback.
The label coming out of Florida was project. Projects take time. And so I'm totally with you on the patience that's required with that. And maybe he should have been in a better situation, although he did split time. I believe Gardner Minshew began the season for them, right? Because the Ravens played them last year, and that's when Gardner was in there. Maybe AR had already gotten hurt. Availability's not been a calling card of his. And having listened this morning to a Sirius XM radio hit with one of their beat writers out there, I think a lot of this had to do, Sarah, with his decision. I think you can't down. I don't think that anybody should be downplaying the significance of him admitting that he was tired. Listening to this beat reporter today, and his feel and pulse that he has on the locker room, you've got veterans like a Ryan Kelly, who's his center, who shared with the media that while he wasn't going to divulge what the conversation was, he had a one-on-one, heart-to-heart with Anthony. This guy's a 22-year-old quarterback. Ryan Kelly's been around the league. Michael Pittman's been in the league for a while. Josh Downs. You got guys that are ready to – Jonathan Taylor. You got guys that are ready to win right now. And with that sort of youth comes unpredictability. And you hope that AR obviously gets another chance to develop. But right now they're going with, okay, maybe not as high of a ceiling as what Anthony Richardson could be in this league, but at least you know what you're getting on a game-by-game basis from Joe Flacco, and his experience is through the roof. So that's what's going on there.
Yep.
This came out right before the Ravens acquisition did of Deontae Johnson yesterday, and that is a big blow for the Houston Texans. Stephon Diggs tore his ACL on Sunday against Indianapolis. His season is now over in year 1 with the Texans, and you get the sense that they're going to be hanging around as a contender, Sarah, and this is a big, big gutting loss for them from a playmaking standpoint.
It's a big, big loss. I know they got I'm forgetting his name. Their other wide receiver about to come off of IR. They're going to need him. So it's a big hit for the Texans.
Nico Collins.
Nico Collins. Thank you. Yep.
They got a bunch of playmaking around CJ.
I still think they're going to be in the
contract.
Yeah, they're still going to be in the postseason though.
They got Tank Dell. They got John Mechie. They got Robert Woods. You got Dalton Schultz at tight end. Yeah, they're going to be hanging around with the way CJ Stroud slings that thing. All right. One final quick hit because Roquan may have already won Halloween before it even begins tomorrow. He dressed up as Lamar. That's kind of funny. And he did it well. I mean, he's got the whole look down and he's jumping rope in this skit, I guess, or in this, I don't know what you
Instagram
want to
post.
call it. Collage. Yeah.
Yes. Bobby, I'm glad that you found something funny.
I do find that to be funny.
Okay.
I think it was well played from Roe. I like when people go, I'm not a huge Halloween guy.
Yeah.
But I think the way Roquan put some effort in here and mirrored Lamar, that's some good stuff right there.
Okay, let me see if you think this is funny. This is Marlon Humphrey on the Punchline podcast when he found somebody sitting in his seat on the airplane.
Some dude's in my freaking seat. I walk up like, hey, Buster, you're in my seat, pal. Just so happened to be Lamar Jackson. I was like, hey, you good, bro? You good. You know what? Y'all stay right there.
So Lamar's next to Derek, right?
Lamar's next to Derek, next to the King. I really almost fought him until I seen who I was. Oh, 8, that's you 8? Okay, you good.
Funny?
Marlon, I'm hot and cold on when it comes to humor. I think it's great that the two.
Hey, pal. Hey,
King
Buster.
King 1, King 2 sitting together. That's a power seat right there. That's a power duo on the plane. But Marlon is all over the map.
I love the imagery though because we have seen from the post-game Instagram live, right? Where obviously Marlon sits next to Derrick Henry. And Lamar's like, nah, I got this. I got to talk to my running back. And, hey, Buster, hey, pal. Oh, number 8, you're good. Like, I just like that he plays up, that he knows who leads this team. Marlon's a leader, but Lamar is the leader.
Time for our giveaway.
Okay.
We've got a few more super chats to comb through, which will give you a minute to queue up what you need to do. And Daniel Hudson says, I think the Johnson signing is great because we are more dangerous in 11 personnel. And when Mitchell comes back, meaning Keaton, we are truly balanced. #Vault. Diehard Eddie says that MVP list makes no sense. Gabe says Wilson was a prime coaching candidate, Denard. Nobody had any rumblings of stealing Zach or other than McDonald. Probably was the wrong choice for Harbs. Captain Hard says Stevens, like at safety, is his problem. Brandon Stevens at safety, his problem is not turning his head. That would be less of a problem. Okay,
Stevens, like at safety, his problem is not turning his head. That would be less of a problem because everything would be in front of him. So he's saying that obviously his problem is not turning his head, but at safety, he thinks it'd be less of a problem because most things are in front of you.
Captain, you're so generous. Please, commas. Tank says #Vault. Brandon Big Baby Williams is a free agent. Has he retired yet?
Yeah, he's
actually
retired.
DM'd him the other day trying to get him to come on the show. I haven't heard from him yet. Prince Lee says, hope it's not too late. #Vault. It's not. Moneybag says, don't mention Ajabo Matabike or Jalen Armour Davis. They're all cheeks right now, bruh. Get Cam Jordan or Zadarius Smith, and Juju is cheeks, bruh. And I think we are fully caught up with Super Chats. 52 of them, so 52 contestants are about to be entered into our giveaway. Thanks to our 52, friends at Homage.
All those that put in the hashtag are about to be entered in from those 52. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that our giveaway is coming up here. We listened to the feedback that you guys were giving us last week, and now we are about to randomly pick through some software that Sarah did some research on a winner today.
Okay, so what this does is it's going to go through. So there's 31 actually of people who used #Vault in the super chats. So this software is going to randomly choose among you super chat #Vault people And so here we go. I'm just going to click the button and it's going to run through all
fun.
these different faces. Here we go. Who's going to be the winner?
See, I think this is fun.
See, this is fun. Okay.
Oh, Diesel says he doesn't want it. So if it
Well, he
lands
put it
on
in
him
that
again,
first time. We could
we're
do it
gonna have
again.
to roll it again. Oh, the Aries.
Oh, and
why
he's
don't I do
flexing on
this?
us.
Yep. And why don't I do this? We'll actually go pull it up so that we can see what the Aries Explorer wrote us. And we've got
You can
52 of them.
find
So
it.
just give me a second. Here it is. Oh, it was a yellow one.
Oh,
And the
nice.
Aries Explorer says, "Hey, Bobby and Sarah, love the show and the awesome content you guys bring. I feel like last week's game against the Browns was a wake-up call for us.
Ah,
I feel like we got this. #Vault, and that is your winner."
okay. So the Aries Explorer, what you need to do is email us at BaltimoreRavensVault at gmail.com.
It's included in the show notes.
It's included in the show notes. Click on that, email us, send us a link of the t-shirt that you would like sent to you, along with the size, along with your address of where you want it mailed to. Okay. So reach out to us via BaltimoreRavensVault at gmail.com. Again, it's in the show notes.
Which you can see also as a ticker streaming right now as well. So, yeah.
Is he here or she? The Aries Explorer? Did you leave? I don't see him in here.
This is giving me a second to load in our new patrons.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right. So, well, I guess here's the question. If they leave, do we redo it? Or
Ooh.
Oh, no, there he is. There he is.
We
He
should
says
honor
he's here.
them.
There he
Okay,
is.
cool.
Okay, he's here. All right.
Cool. Yeah, hit us up the Aries through email and so you can claim this giveaway. And obviously a huge thank you to Homage for allowing us to do these giveaways, partnering with us. And this is the second of 8 episodes that we're going to be doing on Wednesdays moving forward. So hopefully you guys enjoy this process. Go check out Homage. Again, the giveaway is super easy in terms of instructions. So next Wednesday, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video. If those 2 things have already been done, by the way, just screenshot the screen as Sarah's mentioned in the past, right? And include that in the email for receipt purposes. After that, all you have to do is leave a super chat with the #Vault and click on the link. And again, you can just screenshot that you visited the link, which is homage.com/Sarah and Bobby. Just some housekeeping, bookkeeping stuff that allows us to ultimately sign off on getting you that free t-shirt. So with that, let's get some patron shout outs in here. Really substantive live stream today. We appreciate you guys being here. Greg from Long Beach, Adair, and Robert Bergeron. Thank you guys for believing in what we're building. This is your monthly shout out. We appreciate you guys for being part of the Vault Patreon community. And if anyone else is out there and interested in doing the same, you can do so for as little as $1.99. It goes towards the daily upkeep, the daily grind that it is to provide this kind of content to you all year long, Monday through Friday. And it is the bedrock of what we're building here inside the Vault. Partner, great stuff today. We'll be back in action, of course, on Thursday for a Thursday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream.
We'll be
Brandon
back on
Stokely,
Thursday with a Wednesday live stream.
that shows you where my mind is. It's been a lot of multitasking throughout this one just because of the slight malfunction that StreamYard's having right now, our streaming provider, which is fine. Brandon Stokely cannot make Friday at 12:30. Unfortunately, he has a previous commitment that he can't make the show from a Broncos perspective. So we're going to do our best to track down another guest. And, of course, get ready for week 9, which is the Ravens and Broncos coming up on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Anything else from you, partner?
Get ready for the pressers today. Harbs, Lamar, and other key players will be speaking.
That we will. And please, if you haven't already, check out the new formatting design that we've been working on when you go to the Vault YouTube. And when you go to the front channel, you'll see there's a live stream section and then there's the best of section. That's something that we're now kind of trying to work into our daily content workload. And that's essentially taking the 10 to 15 minutes, the best of our hour-long live stream. And we're catering to those of you who have shorter attention spans, can't maybe check out a live stream on any given day, can't hang around for an hour and 16 minutes and counting. So go check that out. Please like the video on your way out if you enjoyed today's show. Subscribe to the channel. You can always email us with feedback at BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. And we would love for you to obviously join the Patreon community while you're at it. So for Homage, for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Wednesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll catch up with you in under 24 hours. And until then, as always, we appreciate you for being with us here inside the vault.